Hi again, Mark here from talkingbass.net. This lesson I'm going to take a look at a really important part of your fingerstyle playing in alternate picking. Now when we play fingerstyle on the bass, it makes sense to use our fingers in the most efficient and logical way. Most of us play with two fingers and we generally alternate them. I know some of you might only use one finger, and some high-profile brilliant players have stuck to one finger like James Jamerson or Chuck Rainey. There's also three-finger players like Billy Sheehan and Steve Bailey, and some players even manage to use four fingers like Dominic DiPiazza, Matt Garrison, Hadrian Farrow. Today we're just going to be sticking to two fingers, specifically the first and second fingers. Alternate picking usually involves playing consistently between these two fingers like this. And if we label the picking fingers 1 and 2, then we sometimes start on the first finger and sometimes we start on the second finger. And we often forget to pay attention to which fingers are being used at any one time because we're more conscious of what notes we're playing on this fretting hand. Because of this, we can end up raking across strings or using one finger more than the other, so we might play a run and use either finger twice in succession. But why does this matter? I mean, if we're on autopilot, then surely that's a good thing, in that, the body, or specifically the fingers, are finding their own way. How many times has someone asked you how to do something and you've realised when you have to analyse it that you didn't even realise that you were doing such a complicated set of movements? This autopilot side of our coordination is an amazing thing, and without it the world would probably grind to a sudden halt with us all stood around scratching our heads trying to figure out how to do everything that we'd normally just do. But even though the autopilot is a great thing, most of the time it can actually sometimes hinder our progress. It kind of relies on us learning something by falling into a natural pattern, and playing an instrument can sometimes demand movements that might instinctively feel unnatural. As an example, let's play a C major scale at the 8th fret on the E string, starting on the second finger of the fretting hand, in a 2-4, 1-2-4, 1-3-4 pattern across the E, A and D string. We're going to play up and down it, starting on the first finger of the picking hand, and alternate the picking fingers on every note. The tab and sheet music for these exercises is available to download from the link in the info below, and also from talkingbass.net. So here we go, we'll just play up it and down, okay? Okay, so now we'll repeat it over and over. Okay, so the order of the picking fingers is 1, 2 on the E string, 1, 2, 1 on the A string, and then 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 on the D string, then 1, 2, 1 on the A string before coming back to 2 and then 1 for the C as we return. So now try repeating the scale and keeping track of the fingers as we play, okay? So if we go up and down the scale again, we have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, okay? So you should know if you're keeping a strict alternating pattern with the picking hand, because when we get back down to the C, you should still be on the first finger, okay? So if I was to go up, okay, so the first finger hits it on the C as a return. Okay, so keep playing it. Okay, and now I want you to build up speed slowly. Okay. Now I want you to play that exact same scale, but starting on the second finger of the picking hand. So we'll start out slow. It'll probably feel a little bit alien to you. Again, keep track of the picking fingers, and especially those that you use to jump from string to string. So this time we have the 2, 1 on the E string, then 2, 1, 2 on the A string, then 1, 2, 1, 2, 1 on the D string, then 2, 1, 2 on the A string, and then finally 1 to 2 coming back down on the E string, okay? And that, the D there down to the C with the first finger might feel a little strange, okay? So we'll start out slow. So you want to try building up speed, and every time that you return to the C, it should be the second finger, okay, on the picking hand. So. Okay. Now, for some of you, the scale difficulty might be the opposite of how I've presented them. If you're more used to starting on the second finger, then you'll probably have a harder time with the first finger. Just take note of how you would normally or naturally play the scale. So even though we're just keeping an alternating motion in our fingers on autopilot, we can sometimes end up raking across or repeating a finger without even realising it, just as you might have done with the scales there. Now, this might not seem like so much of a problem, but every now and then you might find yourself getting finger twisted on a bass line or a lick for what seems like absolutely no reason, and you just can't get a flowing feel going. Now, this can often be because picking fingers are automatically getting caught up in a strange picking pattern, or you're not aware or even used to a certain jump needed, like jumping back a string with the second finger. So from a purely technical standpoint, there is one reason it can slow you down or cause problems. If I play a single note, alternating my picking and build up speed, it can get fairly quick and the pulse seems fairly consistent. Now, if I put some repeated notes in there with one particular finger, the whole thing can start to get messed up and I can't seem to keep a flowing pulse and speed, and it'll start to stutter as the repeating note tries to keep up with the alternating fingers. Now, if you try learning something like a Bach prelude along these lines, you'll want to keep your fingers alternating at all times in order to keep that pulse consistent and flowing. The faster you play, the more obvious this becomes, and sometimes at high speeds, you'll find this problem can creep up on you much easier because there's so many notes flying around that you just don't spot the problem. Of course, this is one of the reasons why it's so important to learn things slowly. You need to pay attention to which fingers are playing which notes and let the autopilot side of your brain come into play naturally as you build up the speed. It's very much a case of programming or reprogramming the brain. Okay, so strictly alternating the fingers can be really helpful, but sometimes alternating like this can actually highlight problems in your playing. The major scale that we just played highlights this problem. If we aren't used to starting the scale with that second finger, then we'll naturally want to fall back into the comfort zone of the first finger, or vice versa. Also, we can often have a harder time falling back over strings with the second finger because it's usually the longer finger, as you can see there. So it's naturally more inclined to go that further distance forward. This can be highlighted with this following lick. We're going to play the notes C, D, E flat on the D string up here at the 10th fret with the 1st, 3rd and 4th fingers of the fretting hand. Then you want to move over to the F at the 10th fret of the G string with the 1st finger and then come back. And repeat. And I want you to start with the 1st finger of the picking hand. This means the 2nd finger is used to jump across to the F. Because it's the longer finger, it should feel natural, okay? And we try any speed. Okay. Now I want you to try starting that same lick, but starting with the 2nd finger of the picking hand. So this time we're going to be jumping to the F across from the D string to the G string with the 1st finger. Okay, so we're using our 1st finger in the jump across, okay? Because the 1st finger is shorter, it's got further to move, and so it just feels less natural because you're in less of a position for it to just fall there naturally, okay? So with the 2nd finger. And a little quicker. And a little quicker. Okay. So you'll notice how it's a lot harder to build up speed when we start on that 2nd finger. And to get around this problem, as we get faster, we need to pivot the picking hand slightly to the right as you look down in order to give that 1st finger a little bit of a better angle. So try the lick again, and this time pivot the hand slightly that way, okay? Okay, now go back to the 1st finger. See how that's a lot more natural? Now the second finger. Okay? So this second finger length problem can be a real pain, and the only way to get around it is to practice, and particularly practice odd patterns, so your brain can begin to automatically deal with the need for the second finger motion, okay? As a simple exercise, let's take a C major arpeggio and play across the fingerboard and back using only one note per string. So the pattern is C on the E string, 8th fret with the 4th finger, E, 7th fret on the A string with the 3rd finger, G, 5th fret on the D string with the 1st finger, and finally C, 5th fret on the G string with the 1st finger, so we're barring the 1st finger across the 5th fret. Okay? You want to play across the notes of this pattern and back, repeating up and down like this. Okay? So in terms of the picking hand, first of all I want you to just start with the second finger. Okay? So we're going to work across in a strictly alternating fashion. So we have second finger E string, first for the A string, second for the D string, first for the G string, second for the D string, first for the A string, and we're back to second for the E string, repeating round and round and round. So you want to play really, really slowly and pay special attention to these to the picking fingers as you go. Okay? Then build up speed. Okay? You'll probably find it really tempting to rake across the strings when you're coming back down on this pattern just because of the way that it falls under the fingers. But try not to, because this is a completely different type of exercise. Raking's a great way of doing that, you know, when you're coming back down. But again, with this exercise, we're trying to accomplish something very different, and it's to do with the alternating motion of the fingers. So now let's try the same pattern, but this time starting on the first finger of the picking hand. Okay, so we've got the first finger there, second finger takes the A string, first finger takes the D string, second finger takes the G string, first finger takes the D string, second finger takes the A string, and we're back to the first finger for the E string. It can actually help to divide the two strings, the E and the A and the D and the G, into two separate areas. So you're thinking 1, 2, then 1, 2, then 1 again, obviously, then 2, 1 as we come back down. So, okay. You can play with all the notes held as a chord, or play each note separately as a staccato line. So, either way, it doesn't matter as long as the picking fingers keep alternating. For a bit of variation, we can play 4 times through the major arpeggio and then drop the A string note of E down a semitone to the E flat to give us a minor arpeggio. So play that 4 times. So we have 4 times C major and 4 times C minor, like this. Okay? So this exercise is really good for working on your alternate picking, and it's deceptively difficult. Eventually you should aim to be able to handle any odd picking patterns by taking note of which finger is required for which jump. I recently recorded a rendition of Bach's Prelude from his cello suite in G major, and that piece is a perfect example of keeping track of a particular picking finger jump. Each of these lines requires me to jump back to the E string with the second finger, and it's simply a case of keeping an awareness of that picking finger order. So, okay. So now let's try just a couple of other little exercises to help with this alternate picking. Odd number patterns are great for forcing you to accent or lead with both fingers because each repeat is going to start on an alternate finger. Even a simple odd number like 3 creates this alternating pattern. Just take one note, like this C, and play a repeating pedal note like this. Now I want you to play in groups of 4, but accenting beat 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now I want you to use groups of 3, and again accenting on the first of each group. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you'll notice that every time there's an accent, we play an alternating 2, 1, 2, 1. So we have 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, as long as we keep the alternate motion. Now let's try groups of 5 on that same C, phrased as a 2 and a 3. So we have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So we're going to be accenting again, and if we start with the second finger, the first group of 5 will have its accents with the second finger, then the second group of 5 will have the first finger for the accents, and so on. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, so now let's try a group of 7, grouped 2, 2, 3. So the accents are going to be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay? So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay? So again, start on the second finger. For the first 7, the accents will be with the second finger, and for the next group of 7, the accents will be with the first finger, and so on, repeated. Okay? So we'll have 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay? Now let's try a riff. This is a well-known bass riff by Frank Zappa called Pound for a Brown on the Bus, and it's in 7/4, and it works across the strings like this. Okay, so if we start the riff at the F at the 8th fret on the A string here, and then we bar the finger right across on the D string and the G string, and we play F, B flat, E flat, okay? Then we repeat that, and this time put in the F up at the top. So we have, so it's 7 notes there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And you just repeat that round and round. Okay? The notes look like a 7/8 feel, but the overall feel is half time. It's 7/4. So start on the first finger of the picking hand, and we want to have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay? So we're alternating picking every time. And then on the second time through, we start on the second finger. Okay? So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then we're back to the first finger. Okay? Play it slow to begin with until you get used to the finger picking pattern. Okay? Okay, and if we build up speed. Okay. As a guide, when you play the riff, when you come back down onto the F, just take note of what finger you're on the picking hand. So if we start on the first finger, then when we come back, we're on the second finger. Then when we come back again, we're on the second finger again. And then when we come back, we're on the first finger. So we have 1, 2, 2, 1, okay? Which will make more sense as you build up speed. Okay? Once you've nailed the riff up here starting on the A string and across the A, D and G, we can move down to the first fret of the E string here for this F and play it across the E, A and D string, like so. Okay, Okay, and then build up speed. Okay, it's a little bit tougher down there, but it's worth practicing. So now let's try one more riff. This is a repeating figure of 17 notes grouped as 2 6s and a 5. So we're essentially learning a riff in 17/16. So these notes are in C minor, so we have C, D, E flat, F, E flat, D, C, twice. Okay, so C, 10th fret of the D string, D, 12th fret of the D string, E flat, 13th fret of the D string, and then up to the F, the 10th fret on the G string, and back. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll be starting with the first finger of the picking hand. So we're using the second finger to cross over to the F, okay? So after the groups of 6, we have a group of 5. So this is C, 10th fret on the D string, up to G, which is the 12th fret on the G string. Then we come down, F, 10th fret on the G string, E flat, 13th fret on the D string, D, 12th fret on the D string, and then we're back at C to start the pattern all over again. So the whole pattern is as follows. Okay. We're going to alternate pick every single note, and if we start with the first finger, then we go through the whole group of 17, and then the second group of 17 starts with the second finger, so we're alternating each time, okay? So first time through with the first finger. Now we're back at the second finger to hit the C for the second time through, okay? And now we're back with the first finger. So round and round. So we'll start slow and then gradually build up speed, starting with the first finger of the picking hand. Okay, so hopefully these exercises will encourage you to look at your finger picking a little more closely and keep track of the fingers that you use when you jump from string to string. So remember to like the video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I release a video at least once a week, but there are usually two, one on a Saturday and one on a Wednesday. You can also visit talkingbass.net for more lessons, articles and downloads. And if you sign up to the newsletter, then you can download the free scale reference guide. So go check it out. Okay, see you later.